Welcome back to another episode of the Deals for Dentists podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. And as always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. And my goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out my latest book, Stress-Free Dental Implants, and my first book, The Stress-Free Dentist. And they can be found on Amazon or thestressfreedentist.com. Also, check out my upcoming personal development retreat for dentists called Roses and Thorns. And you can find it on dentalgrowthcon.com. It'll be in Chicago on May 18th to May 20th. And it'll be a no BS, intense, but fun retreat where we dig into your top 5% and bottom 5% of your life and career. And we all learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses. So it's going to be an incredible event. I hope to see you down there. Dentalgrowthcon.com. But enough about me. Let's get to our superstar guest here, Dr. Yooson Kim. I'm super excited to talk to, and I've been wanting to get her on this podcast for a while. So Yooson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I know you've been trying, but I've been also trying to get on it for a while too, because I'm excited to be a part of this podcast and meet the people who are interested in anything about dentistry. More for entertaining. I like that part.
Yeah, actually, we were talking, we've talked multiple times, and this could be like a 3-part podcast because there's so many questions that I want to ask you because you just seem like you have it all together. And I think you have a lot to offer for any of those young dental professionals out there. But I want to get into your style of practice, and you have a company called New Concept Partners. Find out, how did you get involved with dentistry?
So I actually first got into the whole field of medicine because I was helping my mom going through her cancer therapy. And my initial thing was that I wanted to be an oncologist because that's the world that I knew. That was kind of what was cool to me. And then when I lost my mom at the age of 19 after 5 years of battle with cancer, that's when I decided I could not be an oncologist. And I tell you right now, retrospectively, if I did go through the oncology path, I don't think I would have been in oncology right now. So that was the moment that I had to sit and think about, what do I really want to do? I've dedicated, quote unquote, my life up until that point in order to go to med school and do this. I still wanted to be in some sort of a medicine, but I needed to be in a medicine where I can develop relationship and not have people die on me all the time. So that's when my advisor told me that I could consider 3 different areas. It was eyes, teeth, and feet. And I thought, I don't know about the feet. I still don't want to touch feet. And eyes, there's something weird about, like, I don't want to get into this whole eye thing, and they're way too close. Although I feel like dentistry were right there with the patients too. I didn't really know anything about dentistry at the time. I went to this 1-week course at University of Maryland. They kind of do overall kind of introduction to dentistry part of it. I don't think it's there anymore, but I went and I spent a week and I loved it. And that's when I changed from pre-med to pre-dental. And honestly, I don't know if I look back. So whenever I talk to my young patients right now, who is kind of in that 18, 19, 20, going to school, college, not sure what they want to do, I always kind of say, don't be too hasteful. Like, take your time, figure out what you really want, because life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you just need to figure out where you want to go, how you want to be it, because what you think that you want to do may not be where it is. So I'm kind of more, as I'm getting older, and like I have 2 children in college and 1 graduated from college too, I feel like they need to take their time. It's like so many people think like, this is what I want to do. They get into school and they think that's where I want to be, but you don't know that. You don't know until you get into it if that's what you really want and what you really don't want. And I kind of see that in my own field too. I talked to a lot of dentists. I talked to a lot of young dentists coming out of school. Some are just, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I'm excited about. And some kind of go, I don't know if that's what I want to do. I mean, you only live once. You got to be passionate about what you do. So I think but even if it's not, I think you can always find that passion and then reignite that interest back in, especially if you spend this much time into it. So it's interesting now. I feel like I'm old enough. I can look back and say, this is where I have been and whatnot. As you're walking through it, it just feels like sometimes you're just going through the woods and trenches of things and whatnot, and you just don't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But it's a great field to be in. I mean, I highly, highly recommend the field of dentistry to anybody, and not just even like the clinical part of dentistry, but I think it's something that we're going to talk about later. A lot of the field of dentistry is more than just a single dentist with, a couple team members or whatnot that you're doing. Now it's becoming more of a business and a corporate. So there's a lot of aspect of dentistry that you can get into, even if it's not a clinical side of things. So that's exciting to me because I feel like we're really making the field of dentistry more than just people sitting there with teeth and coming in and saying, oh, I hate to be in a dental office. There's a lot more aspect to it. And of course, it's not just about teeth. I mean, I do a lot of aesthetic works, and then we have discussed that a little bit too. The field of dentistry is expanding more just than people coming in with a broken teeth and cavities that we're fixing, but it's about the overall health, and then kind of going beyond that and feeling good about yourself, and then also developing into more of the aesthetic side of things. So you're right, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I feel like oncology would be a really tough profession. It just seems like it could be a very mentally taxing profession. I have a hard enough time telling someone that I have to take their tooth out.
Right.
But I could see that being a tough profession. It takes a special personality. So you graduated from Franklin Marshall College with a bachelor's degree in chemistry, and then you went on to University of Pennsylvania School of Dental Medicine, and you have extensive research background with the National Cancer Institute and the National Institute of Health, and you've also been recognized and awarded for many publications. So that is awesome. Tell me what happened after dental school. Did you
So,
associate or did you open up a practice?
oh yeah, no. So when I was done with dental school, I did 2 years of residency program at Penn, oral medicine. That was a great experience, and I highly, highly recommend any educational path that you can take out of dental school. Because I think when you're in school, I mean, you're given 3 hours for a patient, and all you're thinking about is kind of getting that requirements signed off so you can get your requirements done, which is important too. But I think you're not able to really see the whole aspect of dentistry. One thing that I really talk about with my dentist that I talk to is that, I mean, I don't know, Eric, maybe you tell me, like when you went to dental school, did you have a single course of business in dental school at all? I don't remember taking any dental school business school. I think there was a one, maybe something about like, this is life after dental school kind of thing. But you're coming out of it and now expected you not only be a clinician to give the best care, but now you have to be an HR, you have to run the practice, you got to know all the finances, you got to know how to negotiate for supplies and all that. I mean, all those things you never learn. And it's like either you get it or you don't. And some people are good at it and some people are not. So any experience that you can have out of dental school, whether it's a mentorship or going into residency programs, I think that's really valuable. Clinically, I think it's a huge change from having that, one patient 3 hours to now being able to run. I always say to my doctors, when you're here seeing the real patient in the real office setting, I mean, these are real money paying people. So they want to get things done right in a good amount of time. So you no longer have 3 hours to do a crown prep or 2 hours to do a crown prep. You do need to get your skill better. And then these patients, obviously they should expect nothing less than the best. So that's one of the things that I see when I have new doctor coming into the office and I transition a patient over. But then say the procedure that would take me, say 15 minutes, is taking them an hour. And then patients now question, it's like, I don't want to be with this person. So you got to really hone your skills. So that's going to be important. So I do recommend residency. I do think any type of experience that you can have to better your skills, jump in and do it. I don't want to be stereotyping the new generations versus old generations, but I do think a lot of times you come out and think all of a sudden things are going to just fall in your lap and you're able to do things. It's a practice. I mean, it's called a practice for a reason because we're constantly practicing. And even for me now, after 20 some years, I still feel like there are things that I'm getting better at it because I'm doing more of it. It's literally what it comes down to is you do more, you're going to get better. So I think that's important. I did 2 years of residency program, but even prior to that in dental school, third and fourth year, I worked in a, I think at the time called infectious disease clinic. It was a government funded, the patients who are coming in, and it was running like a real clinic where there's an admin person and assistant who's helping you with that. And I honestly think that's where I got all my skills. It wasn't in the clinic floor of the dental school. So even if you're in dental school, I think it would be amazing if you, and not that you have enough time, obviously, because you're studying and all that stuff too, but if you could find a place where they will hire you as an assistant or hygiene assistant even, I think that's huge because you get to really see how the practice runs and how things running, learn the instruments and just knowing the backings of it. And then when you're working on the other side of it, and then when you're now the doctor hiring and working on them, now you know what it is like on the other side. And I think that's also huge. That empathy, being able to connect with your team, I think that's also a great skill to have. So, I mean, to me, that was a huge thing. And any experience that I had, anything that I saw during the residency program, that is what made me not to be able to not to phase by anything. So if I have a patient coming in that was kicked up by a horse and face is all cut up, I'm not going to panic. I've done this, and I helped with a head and neck trauma when I was in residency program. So any experience, I think it's going to be a great experience. And I think especially coming out of COVID and everything was quote unquote virtual and waved off, I do worry for some of these doctors coming out. They not by choice, obviously this is what happened, but a lot of times it's like they've only done 1 or 2 crowns and now you're like thrown into the real world and having to do the real thing. One other thing that I noticed that these young doctors need a lot of help in is diagnosis and treatment planning. So that's, again, it comes with the experience. You're seeing things, and then how to communicate with the doctors. So how to communicate with your patients. I don't know. It's just, there's so much of it. I just feel like I want to go there and help them sit down and do, but a lot of times it's what they're taking and then how they have to do with it. So they're just babies. I think you probably see that too, Eric, when they come out. I sometimes feel like they come out and they think, I know how to do everything. You listen to them, they're like, oh, I can do implants, I can do endo, I can do, and then yes, you can, but to the extent of where it needs to be in reality, it's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of effort to it. Those who put efforts into it and be serious about it, I see them excelling like crazy. And those who are not are going to be always. And that's kind of same thing when I teach technology. I always say technology is not going to make a bad dentist a good dentist. It's going to make the good one a better one, because it's going to help you to better your skills that much more and make you more efficient. So in all, I think we're always learning, always practicing, always trying to get better. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Block doesn't say I know everything. He's on this type of podcast, really learning from everybody. I'm on this type of a platform because I want to learn from everybody too. It's such a great platform to be able to give and take. So I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, so I did a 2-year residency after I went to Nova in Fort Lauderdale, and then I did a residency at BU as an implant residency. And even then, after that, I didn't feel ready for private practice. And I associated for way too long. My personal recommendation would be to at least do 1 year after dental school, a 1-year residency or 2-year program, and then associate for a bit and in different types of practices to learn different types of dentistry, whether it's a high volume or a boutique type of office. And then mold those towards your own style, and then start to look into becoming an owner. You may have mentioned this, but did you associate for a while before opening up your practices?
I did. I was an associate for 2 years, 2 different practices. When I came out of dental school, I did not want to be an owner because I had kids right then, and being a female, I just wanted more flexibility, that kind of stuff too. So I wanted to be an associate, if anything. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, group setting, to be able to have that kind of a group practice that helps you to grow and also be able to collaborate and converse. But 2 of the practices that I was in at the end wasn't right for me. It's just the mindset, and it could be the background. So you kind of come to the point where you have to decide at that point, as you were saying, do I take a plunge and then do the next thing, or what do I do? But the thing is, it's like you get a little more brave when you don't know what you don't know. I think if you know what you're getting into, I think you're a little more scared to do that. But I think I didn't know what I was getting into, but I knew I had to do it. So I just basically took the plunge and then ended up opening a practice, leasing a space that was owned by a retired dentist who still lived upstairs. So it was an old home, really the old style. He was a dentist, and then he came downstairs in the basement was his practice. And then he goes back upstairs. Patients come in and ring the doorbell on Sunday, having a toothache. He goes out and fixes their teeth, that kind of stuff. So there was a space that basement space that was opened up. So that's where I started, leased that space. It was a 2.5 operatories. And I say half because the hygiene operatory, if the chair goes down, the hygienist cannot move out of there. I mean, talking about fire hazard, that would be never something that, you'll be ADA compliant to be able to pass to actually even have an office there. But it was all grandfathered in because he was a dentist there for a long time. So that's where I started. Obviously, within like 2 months, we're like, we got to get out of here because we were just growing. So then from there, we just like a quarter mile down, bought a lot, built a building there, moved there. So that I was there for about 18, 19 years of practicing in that. The irony of the whole the building was when I was building, it's a 7-up practice that we built there. I finished 4 because I was coming from 2.5, and then the other 3 was plumbed. And I'm thinking, I don't know when I'm going to expand out to those 3, because I'm thinking how am I going to get to that spot? But within 2, 3, 4 years or so, we obviously filled the whole area. We outgrew that, and now we've moved to another building. We built another building, just another quarter mile down the street. So now I moved into 11-up building with the future expansion plan of the same size. It's going to add it onto it. The COVID made it so that I could build just what I build now. I was able to build probably twice, but what was allotted for that, I had to do half because of the COVID price. So, but it is what it is. So we moved into this 11-up building end of July, actually, this year. I wasn't sure how we were going to be able to fill that because that was a transition from going 7-up to 11, new flow, new patient things, opening up more columns, added more hygienists. So we have 6 hygienists now. I didn't know we were going to be able to kind of get that transition to happen right away. But I think the first month that we moved in here, so that was August. So we moved in end of July to August. We had 145 new patients that month. And I'm like, where did these people come from? So I'm in like the whole mindset of you build, they'll come. If you have a good reputation, you have a good thing going, people are going to know who you are and they're going to really come. I don't even advertise. That's my whole thing. It's like they know the word of mouth to me is the best still in the medicine. We're, what is this, November? So we're like 4 months into it now in this office. We're already saying we don't have enough room. We're still so probably next year, I think end of next year with all the inflation curves and everything start to normalize again, that will be just about the time we'll be ready to build out the second phase. So I'm excited. I think if you have some sort of a plan to know what you're going to head toward and have that expansion plan of where you want to go, if that's where you want to do. Some people may not want to do that. Maybe that's too much for some people. Some people get exhilarated by these type of opportunities. So I think one advice that I would have for dentists who's like looking to build and whatnot, always plan for more, because you need to plan for more. What you think you have enough, you don't. You get out, you just run out of space so fast, no matter how efficiently you're using the space. So it's if you're growth minded, and then if you're about to grow, then I would say you always want to plan for more. And real estate wise, you could, that's always limited. So I would say always go for the real estate that get for more space, period.
Now, you said plan for more. How many practices do you own right now?
Right now we have 7 locations. And then the 8th location, which is my previous location, that 7-up practice that I was telling you about, that one we just converted, and that's going to become a med spa. So we just opened up. December is what our opening time for that. So that's kind of the expansion of our own field and being able to do more and better. I've always done the whole the Botox fillers in the office. A lot of times it was therapeutic for headaches and migraines and whatnot, and fillers more for the cosmetic support for some of the dental work that I was doing to support the lips or the gingival tissues and whatnot. But obviously it has a lot of cosmetic outcome with it. So we were doing that too. And then from there, we just added more of the items to it. So now it just became a full-blown med spa, and patients want it. And what I love about it is that you already have a built-in patients. So when you're trying to open something like med spa, there's so much a budget has to go in for marketing because you got to bring people in. But right now we already have 100 plus patients walking in the door, seeing what we're doing. So they already know, they ask about it. So to me, it was just like match made in heaven. We already have people who are also driven aesthetically, wanting to do stuff. So it just becomes, it was just very synergistic for me. So yeah, so we're excited. So we have, the renovation is going on right now. We're going to be opening the actual med spa hopefully by end of December, but already patients are asking, it's like, oh, like what's going on, how things are going. We do some services here already, but obviously they are more excited about the actual place.
What was the process like going to offices in building this enterprise? What would you say is like your secret to your success?
The interesting part to me was it wasn't something that I sat down and said, oh, I'm going to do this many practices. I'm going to take on this many things. So in 2014 was when one of the doctor who wanted to come join me in my my Morgantown practice, the 7-Up practice. And that practice, I don't have any room for any other doctor coming in there because I use all 7 full. And my philosophy is that there's no chair that should sit idle because that's money lost at that point. So all the chairs needs to be humming at all times. So we knew that it was going to be a little bit of disruption to get an associate doctor in there. So I really liked her. So one thing that we decided to do was to open up a satellite practice, to open that up for her, and then we can run that practice because obviously I already knew how to do one. I could probably do another. So that was kind of my thought process. The thing that I didn't realize was the background of where the doctor was coming from. And this doctor, super nice lady, just amazing personality. But when she came out of dental school, she went from one practice to another, more in the corporate setting. And I don't mean to say that corporate setting is bad, because I know plenty of doctors who've done well too, but sometimes it's where you latch yourself and how you grow yourself and where your principle is going to lie. So I always say when you're coming out of dental school, it's an imprinting process at that point. Where you go and what you're trying to go after, you need to be in a good environment where you're learning things properly and do things the right way. If your goal or if your end goal is not aligning with where you want to be, then now you're not going to be growing to be. Again, like when it's a practice, you learn the stuff right the first time and then you repeat it over and over. Now you only get better. You learn something wrong from the beginning and you repeat that over and over, you're only going to get worse from that point. So I see that over and over, and a lot of the young doctors coming out, I really try to ask them to make sure that you know what you want to do. You may not want to, or you may not know, but always match with a good mentor. So at least you're going to learn the right stuff, because then you're on the right path. So this doctor, I felt she was a great doctor, but the environment that she was in kind of really limited her from being able to diagnose things properly and being able to do that comprehensive care. It was very reactive dentistry that she was doing. Patient comes in, say tooth broken, without really sitting down and taking full mouth series and do a comprehensive treatment plan, talking to the patient and walking them through. She just fixes it, and then that was that. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not the type of dentistry that we wanted to do. And we wanted to do developing relationship. I mean, I'm in a dentistry right now where I saw a child who's a 2-year-old grew up, now is a hygienist of mine. I've seen patients 20 years ago, now still we're talking about, wow, it has been 20 years. And then I see the work that I've done. When you become a critic of your own work and you're able to objectively say, that's wrong, that I didn't do that right, I can redo that, and I can do better, that's when you know you're going to become a good dentist, or good in any field that you're going to be in, because you got to be your worst critic, if anything. So when I look at something that I did 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and go, yep, I can do that better now, and be able to say to the patient, I can do this better for you. That was the best technology that was that at the point. We have this something new that's better, and patients totally understand, and they get. And then when they get that experience, they're like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe. I remember when we did that 10 years ago, that was so traumatic sometimes, but now they're like, this is easy, this is a breeze. So then that also changes the mindset of recipient side of the dentistry too. And for me, that's exciting because we're seeing that change. And then people always kind of talk about how there's nothing more fun than when patient sits down and accepts the treatment plan because they know they can trust you. And they say, if anybody, I knew you would know how to do this. If anybody, I know that you would have this technology in your office. I always want to know more than my patients. I don't want them to coming back and say I read in Facebook, or I saw it on the news and I don't have that. Why don't you have it? I need to know why I don't have it so I can explain that. Or better yet, being able to say, oh, I know what you're talking about, but this is the better technology that I have for you because X, Y, and Z. So that's like, I always want to approach that in the educator side of perspectives. And I think a lot of times these young doctors who's getting into that, I mean, which I understand because they come out of what, $500,000 in debt right now, just like easy, undergrad and grad. And when they come out and that time clicks and they got to start to pay that loan and they get that pressure, I know you have to do what you have to do. I get that. But I think the mindset of where you want to be is start to divert because your ideology of where you want to be as a dentist and then where the reality sets and that start to diverge a little bit, and that makes people stressed out. So when you're in the right place and right environment and know how you're going to grow, I think that helps. So when I was an associate, I felt like that was a divergence that I see. So I was in a practice where a doctor did not even recommend resin. Whenever I treatment plan resin, he would flip it to amalgam. And I understand it's that he understands that amalgam worked really well for him, but we need to start to move toward everything was just partial instead of implants because he didn't believe those type of a newer dentistry is going to be better for the patient. So we knew we were diverging from that point. So coming out of it, I thought either I'm going to be becoming a dental gypsy from office to office, or I'm going to have to start something on my own. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to build this relationship-based practice that I wanted to have. So that's when that the opportunity opened up where I could lease the space. And then that's where I started. Some people I think do love that associateship or be like fractional partners or even become a partner because again, you don't know what you don't know. So if you ended up partnering with somebody who knows what they're doing and then synergistically you can grow so that much better, then be it. But it's also like self-reflection and knowing, can you work with other people? Are you able to give that control? Are you able to admit what you don't know and able to bring in somebody that who knows and be able to work together? Those are all the things I think you have to think about before you decide whether you want to be an associate forever or be a partner or be a fractional partner, or if you want to own your own. I think it's very, very hard. And I've seen a lot of doctors who come out and think that they can do it and then just fare miserably, and then that becomes, it just crushes their soul, and that's so sad. So I think kind of learning, there's so many different aspects to go with it, especially in dentistry. I think it's important to know and then have the right mentors and right people to talk to, and then be able to learn that path. Hopefully not make a mistake and then go back, but being able to follow the right path.
And tell me about, I wanted to wrap things up with two final questions. Number one would be, how do we get a hold of you, whether it's an email or a website? But I also wanted to ask you about new concept partners, your management company.
Yeah. So
can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give my contact information first. My email is cavityhunter@yahoo.com. It's cavityhunter@yahoo.com. So that's my personal email. So anybody, any questions or want to connect, you guys are welcome to send me an email through that. That would be great. And New Concept Partner was born about 2 years ago as we are acquiring more of our practices. So a lot of the practices that I talk to and coming under our wings, these are, say, doctors who are ready to retire, but quite not ready to just be done with it and wanted to have the transition, but not quite ready to have the transition in a traditional way that we can bring in they can bring in the doctors and be able to work. So we were in there to help that transition, if anything. Also, we wanted to provide a space where the doctors coming out of school has more options to be able to come in and be mentored and be able to transition together and learn how it is to run the practice and be able to do it, be in it together. we also have a very successful practices in, within our group too. So then, bringing on doctors in and being able to learn how the inner workings are working. As we were doing it, I actually thought, wow, this is going to be a great opportunity to be able to share with other people. So New Concept Partners obviously was born for that purpose. We are hoping at any level, if doctors want to talk about being part of our group and want to, going through the mergers and acquisitions with us, that's fine. We'll help you through that. Or if they want us to come in and help them in order to optimize their practices and how they want to be, whatever you want to do with that afterwards, that's fine too. But just want to learn the inner workings of things. We are sharing our pearls to make sure that you're getting whatever you want to get. Every practice is different. I call it, like, even my 7 locations, every single one of them is like different children, so I want to make sure that we're building that culture of understanding how that works and what it works. It's not necessarily a map of this is what everybody has to follow, but it's also learning who they are and how things are, and then building that culture that's very specific and that works for that community and for that office. So we obviously offer that service too. It came out of, it was born more out of necessity for us, because as we are building and as we're having of this group formation that's happening, we needed to have something that is a structure that can run and then be able to feed into to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So that's how it got formed. But then in all, that actually became the platform that we can actually help to others too, because obviously I want to share good things with everybody.
Yeah, well, you mentioned sharing pearls, and you've shared so many pearls today. And I definitely would love to do a second part, because there's so many questions I want to ask you about.
I wouldn't even get into the real stuff.
I know we didn't even get to this. We'll have to do a 2-parter. And this was, this half hour just flew by. So Dr. Yooson Kim, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure. And I think that a lot of the young dental professionals out there are going to learn so much from this.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll do it again. As I said, there's a lot more stuff that we wanted to talk about. So I'd love to share all that.
Sounds good. All right, we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Take care.